Okay everyone, how are we all this fine Tuesday? This is the Celtic Ways morning briefing for Tuesday the 6th of February. I am Hamish, we've got Tony and Kevin on with me. Guys, you're both smiling already. That's already an improvement on yesterday's video where it was a bit of a struggle. Are we feeling any more positive about things generally, Kevin?
Oh yeah, I can't keep anger going for too long. And you know we're at Easter Road tomorrow. So the blood's getting up for that. What can you do? You know, I mean, I suppose. I mean, you're thinking right before the season. Would you have taken this still top of the league, having beaten Rangers twice? And you wonder, you know, are we just too accustomed to winning? You know, winning comfortably. You know, there not really being a league race, and when there is a bit of a title race, and it's neck and neck, you know, do we have a sense of entitlement? But then that's just paper and over. There were certain aspects, and I'm sure we'll pick over them of that display at Pittodrie that troubled me deeply about what it said about the spirit, strategy, squad depth.
Yeah, we will jump into all of this. There was a comment yesterday we got, Tony, from someone, I can't remember who it was, but saying the Celtic support will latch on to anything positive here. We don't want to be negative as a support. Yeah. Nobody, I don't think, certainly the vast majority of people, don't want to be negative about a thing they love. And I think if we get something to be positive about, we will latch on to that and be positive. That's something you agree with, and hopefully, you know, we just see something in midweek against Hibs to latch on to.
Yeah, first and foremost, I was just laughing that me and Kevin have raised the average age of the combat soldier to about 95. Kevin, no. But there we go on the briefing today. Yeah, exactly. You want, it's like everything else, you want something to shout about, don't you? The problem at the minute with Celtic is they're shouting about negative stuff, and you can't shy away from that. But I think we were touching on it yesterday, saying, see if Celtic were getting results, that would kind of be in the background, wouldn't it? And it wouldn't be at the forefront of everybody's thinking. It's just feeding into each other. So I think Celtic, you know, and you don't want to be too melodramatic, but this week in particular, it's got a season-defining feel about it, hasn't it? Now I want to see how Celtic cope with that. We were talking about Bottle yesterday, so this is two games that are going to require a bit of stomach, a bit of heart, a bit of fight, a bit of bottle. And we're going to a place where Brendan Rodgers hasn't won. This is, you talk about ideal times to put that to bed, then go and do it tomorrow night. And then, as you say, Hamish, the spin will be positive. We'll say, okay, they do. Someone said yesterday, they lack the minerals. Well, let's see if they've got the minerals. Celtic are in the fight now. So, and, you know, tonight I think a 3-0 win for Rangers puts them top temporarily, doesn't it?
Yep.
So we know that it's a neck and neck job now. We now have a 14-game season. Bottom line, you can dress it up whatever way you want, or however many games that they're going to go through, and if they can advance in the Scottish Cup as well. But in terms of your league season, you got a 14 league game season. You know, nothing short of 14 wins, or as close as damn it to that, will see you home again. And I think those players are good enough to win the title. They now have to prove it, because this gauntlet's been thrown down.
Yeah, it's time to get involved, and that goes for everyone in the chat as well. Morning to the likes of Jerry and Charlie and Seamus and Helen and Andrew and loads of other people. Yes, we'll really want to get you involved in this video. We'll come on to that in a wee second. The video is brought to you by MPH Group and Navien. MPH, as you know by now, are Scotland's award-winning family run all trade specialists. They cover mainland Scotland, and they have a Navien Boiler Promotion for you. You get a free Navien Internet Controller, flexible finance options, and much more, so you can make the smart move and sign up with those legends. Now, as I say, Hibs v Celtic on Wednesday night. We're going to look ahead to that game. We're going to look a wee bit back at the weekend, although not too much. We do also have tomorrow's video to look ahead to the Hibs game. So I want to kind of cover as many of your thoughts and queries as possible. So I'm going to try and make it quite an interactive one. I'm going to be focused on that wee bar on the right hand side of the screen to see what's coming in. So yeah, if you get anything you want us to kind of chat about, fire away. Wi-Fi apologies, well, I'm still on 5G or 4G, whatever it is. So again, if I cut out, you two can just fire on in my absence. Yeah, a couple of comments already that have started. So Christopher saying, hi guys, unless there's a dramatic change in performance and results, I honestly do not see Celtic winning enough games to win the league. Celtic have rapidly went downhill since last season. Kaiser pondering, do the lads think a lack of a winter training camp allowed the board to be inactive as Brendan and the squad were scattered to the wind? And David saying, how can we, this is in response to me, how can we not be negative when all we're getting from the board is negativity? Do any of those stand out to you, Kevin? Do you want to pick up on any of those points there, whether it be winter break or negativity or hopefulness about the rest of the season?
I think the club is shrouded in negativity. I mean, the board haven't said anything because they don't, because they never, they never think that Celtic's vast support is worthy of being told an iota about anything. Transfers, strategy going forward, nothing. We get nothing. It's almost unique in business sector. But there's a shroud of negativity. If you look at recent post-match interviews and some pre-match interviews with Brendan Rodgers, he looks to me like a man who's rapidly losing interest. I'd be very surprised if he's here for next season, even if we win the league. If we don't win the league, he won't. But even if we do win the league, I don't think he'll be there unless, like the board said, right, there's 50 million, there's 40 million to rebuild that squad. I think that other clubs now scent blood in the water whenever they play us because we're easy to play against. Hibs approach this game probably it's a kind of last chance scenario for their manager, but they'll see Celtic as vulnerable at the moment because they're easy to play against. We're playing much more slowly, at a slower pace than we were last season. Therefore, clubs get the opportunity to regroup. And I've rarely seen such a bad attitude as I saw from Bernabe at Aberdeen's goal on Sunday, Saturday. Just everything was wrong. The pass, the failure to track back, the kind of almost, oh no, I need to track back. Oh God, there's something going wrong. To the shocking display of Nabrowski. So, those players, if they get any professional pride, they put all doubts to bed tomorrow night. But I have to agree. There is an air of negativity around the club. It comes from the top. It proceeds through Brendan Rodgers, and there are aspects of our play in the last two games that suggest to me that it's communicating itself to some of the performances on the pitch.
Yeah, I think that's what annoys me when fans of other teams quite often, bring out the entitled line whenever we go through a wee kind of poor run of form, and you get banners like the weekend, and it frustrates me because they just don't understand A, the expectations of Celtic, and B, when things go wrong at Celtic, everything seems to go wrong on and off the pitch, and it's that lack of desire everywhere. Like, I don't think there's many positives at the entire club, you know, at the moment. But as we say, you know, there's still a title there to be won. Tony, this one from Michael: have we the players to win the league? Now, immediately when I read that, I said, yeah, of course we do. And then you actually look at like the players we've lost over the last 12 months, and you look at the players that have replaced them, and you know, I wonder if there's a debate to be had there. Certainly the team that started at the weekend, and certainly the defence that finished at the weekend. I mean, is that strong enough? Are those the players to win the league?
It's a $64,000 question, isn't it? You know, probably up until like the last couple of games, you still thought this team was good enough and strong enough to win the league. Now there's seeds of doubt being sown in your mind, isn't there? And as you say, yeah, we have been missing players, but the team that finished that game on Saturday, you know, they were liable to lose it as much as win it. And I said to you before, even when Celtic got it back to 1 each, I wasn't confident they were going to go on and win it. I was more worried about losing it. And then Big Joe keeps in it with a couple of good saves. Now, as Kevin said there, you know, players are going to have to just look themselves in the mirror and, you know, step up to the plate. But again, you touched on it there, that whenever things go wrong at Celtic, it's always everything, isn't it? It's not just one thing. When you might have a couple of players out of form, fine, you deal with it. The others can get them through it. You know, it's off the field stuff. Players' form going off a cliff. Palmer, Alistair Johnston, you know, Navrowski's not impressed greatly. You know, Kyogo. You know, it's just one thing after another. It just seems to compound everything, doesn't it? And you know, it's the manager's job, as he says, to deliver. And he's not entirely blameless in all of this. You have to say that too. But these players are good enough to win a title. They know what it takes, or certainly most of them do. But you can't get away from the fact that the ones that were brought in to replace the ones that left, you know, they're substandard. That's and I think the manager, as Kevin said earlier, he's fed up working with substandard players, especially when Celtic are supposed to be, at this minute in their history, flush financially. And it's that kind of hanging on to that money, which could cost you dearly come May. And as you say, it's not an entitlement. Celtic supporters aren't asking for the earth. They were asking for maybe, you know, a couple of £5 million region players. Yeah, Celtic could afford that, surely, could they not?
Yeah, a bit of a bit of imagination from the club, a bit of ambition from the club is what we're asking for. And it just feels to me like, you know, I don't know where this all started. People may say that it started with bringing Brendan Rodgers back. For me, you know, it all comes back to the recruitment this season. That's what's kind of started all this off. Kevin, we got one in there, you know, Curly's saying we're good enough to win the league, we'll win the league, everything will work itself out, we all just need to stick together. Clearly, you know, a lot of fans still feel that this team's good enough and things will work themselves out. Do you still believe that, or do you feel there's a certain sense of inevitability, like many fans do, about the way this season's heading?
Well, you could look at who we had missing on Saturday. Hatate, Carter Vickers, Taylor, Maeda, and say, well, you know, when they're all back and we're flush again, it'll be different. You know, no team could, no team could just carry on regardless when missing 3 or 4 of their key players at whatever level. However, as Tony mentioned a few minutes ago, we've got 14 games left. Hatate's out for another few weeks. Let's say he played every game that he is able to play, and he comes back quite early at the earliest time from injury. He will still have missed most league games. By the end of the season, he'll have missed more than he's actually played in. Carter Vickers is out for another few weeks. I know Taylor will probably be back in a week or two. So we're running out. we're running out of road here with 14 games. If you look at the squads on paper, Celtic, player for player, I think have a better squad than Rangers. But reinforcements are very weak. There's no competition in certain key positions. I mean, we've known for a while that Kyogo is off the boil, that O hasn't really convinced as a replacement, and we haven't addressed that. And it's unfair to expect the two new players to come in, hit the ground running, and make a difference in the last 14 games. I've only seen that twice watching Celtic. Well, we've had the existence of the transfer window. One was Craig Bellamy, and who was the other one? Robbie Keane. On both of those occasions, and both those years, they scored in double figures in the last 14, 15 games, but we still didn't win the league.
Yeah.
And they did, they were, touching world-class, top-quality performers who played out their skin for us, scored a barrel load of goals. But things were too far gone, or there were too many weaknesses in other parts of the team that we didn't win the league in those 2 years, despite their heroics. Our two new players are not yet at the level, anywhere near the level of Robbie Keane and Craig Bellamy. And it's unfair to expect them to make sufficient difference to cover over the deficiencies in that team in just 14 games. Start of the season, we can play them in, cut them a bit of slack, but we're neck and neck with our closest rivals who've got momentum. And it's, the pressure would be unfair, and there are still glaring, gaps in the team, and just the way that we play. It's so pedestrian. Doesn't matter. You look at the stats. If there's any games, when I kind of go into the to look at online coverage of away games, if I've not been able to make it, and you immediately look at the stats, right? So it's 0-0. Oh, look, 82-18. We'll get a goal any minute. The goal doesn't happen, and then you see the performance. And you realise why it hasn't happened, because it doesn't matter. We've got 82% possession. It's playing 82% possession almost in reverse gear.
Yeah. I think you make a really good point there from the weekend. I think you would say Celtic played quite well in the first half. Certainly were the better team in the first half. Mm-hmm. However, I don't know about you guys, but at half-time there was just a feeling that Aberdeen would get their chance and would probably take it. Like, it feels as if that there's just, you know what I mean, there's that bit of inevitability. I know you want to come in, Tony. I mean, we're chatting about the board and recruitment, as I say, a lot of it comes back to that. What about Brendan Rodgers though? Like, because we got a comment in there, Love It saying, sorry, the manager lays out the style he wants the team to play. Why, just generally talking about Brendan Rodgers. I mean, is he at fault? He has to be at fault for the way the team's playing.
Yeah, we spoke about yesterday. We need to do something tomorrow night. Spoiler alert coming up, but my team for Wednesday is a 3-5-2. We have to do something. And I'm going to up front. I'm going Ida and Kyogo up front, right? That's my personal opinion, right? So the manager sets this team up, and the definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over again and not getting a result. And talking about recruitment as well, and, that's the biggest indictment of the recruitment, that's where we're at. We need Adam Ida and Nicolas Kuhn to have a storming last 14 games. What an indictment that is in your recruitment, and that's unfair. And they're going to realise quickly that they're in a pressure situation, and if they don't perform, it could go belly up. But and that's the pressure the manager's going to have to put onto those players starting tomorrow night. Say, look, this is where we're at. This is happening. You've got a praying mantis here, spectre on your shoulder, and if you guys don't deliver, then fine. But he has to do something in order to help them deliver. So I think we have to do something tomorrow. I've gone 3-5-2 as well. A couple of commenters are saying so, and try and get that support to Kyogo via Adamida. And I think big man, smaller man might work, might be the spark that ignites something. But you've got to try something, because whatever Rodgers is doing with the players and the way they're setting up right now is not working. We can all see that, can't we? And like you, Hamish, I knew Aberdeen wouldn't have as poor a second half as they did on Saturday, and you just had that foreboding sense of doom that if Majowski touched the ball, he was going to score. He didn't have a shot at goal. He didn't have a touch in Celtic's box in the whole of the first half. Sky threw up their stats, and it was a whole line of duck egg zeros, and you just say to yourself, these chances are going to come back to bite Celtic, and they were good chances as well. And do you know what else annoyed me on Saturday? What's happened to actually taking a corner kick and putting it in the mixer, as they say? Celtic have got some big guys, and I know people say they don't score from headers, but see this short corner routine and giving it to him and going round, and honestly, it gets in my wick. You know, corners and set pieces are a vital part of football, you know, and just tapping it sideways to somebody, you know, put it in there and let guys go and attack it, you know. And if you're going to play Adamida, then I would be doing that with him. If we get any corners, you say, right, big man, let's go in there, go in where it hurts, and see if you can profit from it. Because you know, there's various things that are annoying Celtic. Well, that's just a wee thing that I picked up on Saturday, but they never changed it, did they? They just kept taking short corners and never once gambled and said, you know what, I'm going to throw one in here and see how it goes.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like anything's kind of joined up at the moment in terms of their thinking. I would play Ida tomorrow. I thought he was one of the bright sparks from the weekend, and I don't want to do this thing we did in the COVID season where we built up Ismaila Soro to be the saviour of the season and David Turnbull to be the saviour of the season, and you know, it didn't happen. I don't want to do that with Ida and Kuhn. I don't think they're going to be the ones that save the season. I think if we're going to win the league, we're going to have to see Kyogo, we're going to have to see O'Reilly, you know, Carter Vickers, Hatate once they're fit. Those players are going to have to become big for us. But I think right now, you know, looking at the weekend, Ida looked like a positive for me. I thought his kind of build-up play was good, his kind of interplay with... He knew where his teammates were. I mean, that pass he had for O'Reilly when he hit the post, I thought was excellent. That looked like a player who had been part of the team for ages and knew exactly what he was doing. And I think Kuhn started really lively, fell out of it a little bit, but got the goal. So again, if it's him or Palma at the moment, or him or Abada at the moment, it's Kuhn all day long. Those two for me should start tomorrow. If we're doing the 3-5-2 thing, I have my doubts over whether Rodgers would kind of do that, almost admit defeat in a weird way. I know it probably wouldn't be viewed as doing that, but he may view it as giving up in his formation to do that. Kevin, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think he has to start. He played very well. I agree. I was surprised at how quickly he got the pace of the game, not having played all that often. And you know, and it was against a hard-working Aberdeen team who were disciplined, so you know, weren't easy to play against. I think Brendan has to swallow his pride a bit. I mean, you know, it's not the first time. It's not uncommon for managers, even when things are going well, just to suddenly mix it up a little. And we're talking about mixing it up a little. You know, Celtic will still be the attacking force, whether it's with 1 up or 2 up. It's, you know, it's sacrificing a little bit in the middle. But we know we're going to get the lion's share of possession. And it gives the opposition something else to think about. That's all. And we're kind of running out of options. And as I said before, we have become predictable to play against. Therefore, and I can see that. Brendan Rodgers must see that too. So if you feel that you're being predictable and that clubs kind of know what they're going to be getting, that we allow them to regroup too easily when we attack because of the pace that we play it, then every so often you just throw something in that's different. And with 14 games left, we want to be taking our opponents by surprise as much as we can. Plus, we've got the options. Other clubs, because of the resources, don't have those options to change things up just like that. But we do. That's why we bought those 2 players. We know it should have been more. So if you've got those options of very good players who are available, then just mix it up a little. I think it's got to be 3-5-2. It's a must-win. It's a must-win at Easter Road.
Yeah. I feel like we've been here before already this season. I remember the last game against Hibs at Celtic Park in the league, and we were talking about what can we do different. I think at that point it was Iwata was the one we were looking at, going get Iwata in that team, and that'll transform everything. And it didn't. Iwata did all right, but it didn't quite happen. And then we had those 2 back-to-back defeats, and after that we were saying, this has to be a moment with the team. Pause, have the clear the air type stuff, Tony, as you said at the time, and that probably did happen and the team kicked off. But it seems like we're back here again, so you just wonder how many times you can kind of reach that point and then try and get up from it. So that's my worry. In terms of tomorrow night, comments in there, Mahesh saying start Ida at striker and get plenty of crosses in, move Palmer to left mid for Bernardo, and Maida on the left. Now Maida back for tomorrow, do we reckon, guys? K Matsu saying he's barely played in 3 weeks, he'll be ready for action. Tony, we expecting Maida back?
Well, that's the thing, because I think if you play Kuhn on one side, then it is a toss-up between Maida and Palma, isn't it? If Maida's fit and he can play, and he's not showing any sign, but just don't know if the turnaround's been too tight for him. But if he's fit and he's ready to go, then he has to come in for Palma. But I just
talk about aggression and a will to win. Maida, you can criticise his technique and all that. You can never criticise his application. We need that. We need people digging in. He's a team
player, isn't he? He's a team player. Everything he does for the team.
One of his best performances in the Celtic jersey was at Easter Road last season.
Did also get sent off in the other one. I just wanted to point for fairness there, but
so I don't know how tight the turnaround's been with him coming back, but if he's fit, he plays for me. If not, then it'll be Palma on one side, Kuhn on the other. But my thoughts about Palma, I've been pretty, not disparaging towards him, but I've been annoyed at him ever since the 2 penalty misses. And then on Sunday, I hate players that hit a comfort zone, and I think Palma seems to be cruising and hit some kind of comfort zone that he thought, I've contributed with goals and assists. I like it here. They seem to like me. Yeah, they do like you, but they like you because that's what you did. Don't just cruise now, and and that attitude with those 2 penalties really, really annoyed me. You've got to be professional at all times when you're playing for that club. Yeah. And to compound it by taking the exact same penalty, really, I get that players can miss penalties. I get it. But of the 3 penalties he's missed have been the exact same, carbon copies, replicas of each other. You've got to learn from that. And that's I think that's kind of ate into his game, because he's not picked it up at all in the past 180 minutes for me, or past 2 games that he's played. And I did say before that he could probably be doing with being rotated. And if there's a chance that Maida can play tomorrow night, I would take that chance. I really would.
You have no disagreement from me either. And to be honest, I would at the moment add Abada to the list. Add him in with Palma. I don't know if Abada. I don't know if Abada has the hunger right now to really go and succeed for Celtic. I could be wrong there. I know there's loads of things going on in the background there, but even just as a player, he doesn't strike me as someone who's going to burst a gut to succeed for Celtic. And I think Kuhn, based on what we've seen so far, we don't know how good this guy's going to be, but he seems to get really involved. He did more than Abada when he came on within 2 or 3 minutes. So that for me, if they're all fit, those have to be the wingers. I don't know what you do up front. Again, I'd like to see Ida involved, but if it's a front three of Kyogo up top, Maida and Kuhn, I'm not against that. What about the midfield, Kevin? And then we can maybe talk about the defence as well. It's just all up in the air.
Well, I think one of the reasons why we're not getting as much from the midfield as we ought to be is because it's just that withdrawn role that we play McGregor in. Like, I want to see. Well, McGregor's a great finisher, and if you remember 2 seasons ago, the amount of kind of laser focused balls, little 10-yard, 12-yard balls into the box from McGregor in an advanced position. I know that O'Reilly's does it as well. But for these next 14 games, we need to be on the front foot creating chances. I know that we created 2 or 3 chances in Saturday, but I never got, even though we dominated, we should have been a goal at least up at half time. Aberdeen didn't look as if they seemed that flustered, They weren't, they were kind of handling us for the most part. O'Reilly didn't have one of his better games, but the thing about O'Reilly, I've noticed over the last couple of years, is that see if there's a game where he's not been quite at his best, his attitude is spot on. In the next game, he comes in and he burns it. And I think he'll do that. I think he'll do that at Easter Road. That's one thing I love. I love that guy's attitude. He'll because I've a couple of performances last season. I'm thinking, God, you're not at the races, son. And then he comes and he knows it. He looks as if he knows when he's underperformed or not reached the performance he ought to have, and he does it for the next game. I'm sorry, but I'm still smarting over letting David Turnbull go for £2 million in a season such as this. And I just think if he'd been managed properly, if we'd kind of dealt with him properly, he should be contributing. Anyway, that's gone. Last season, I heard loads of commentators after games, including Rangers-focused ones, who looked at the Celtic midfield and said, the Celtic midfield is the key to them winning the title. It's the best functioning midfield. It's what provides chances. No other midfield in the country can touch them. And in certain European games, when we clicked against top teams, it was coming from them. But they're playing at a slower pace. They're not. It's not one touch. It's not. There's no passing and moving, and it's back to back, side to side, and that it starts and ends with the midfield, because that dictates how we play, how we've always played. With the 2 wingers coming forward and being available to add to the speed, the pace of the attack, it's just not happening.
Yeah, without being too negative, a question if it will happen. I mean, I don't think it's as simple as Rodgers saying to them before the game, right, come on, tonight we pass the ball quicker than that. I feel like that all comes from training and the mentality, and it just seems like a lot of the players are kind of coasting at the moment. We've not even covered the defence, guys. God knows what's happening with that tomorrow night, given how Aberdeen exploited us. I know Hibs are struggling. I know Aberdeen were struggling or still are. But Hibs have players who can hurt us tomorrow. I think they've got some of the better attackers in the league. So it's just going to be I think it's going to be a really kind of nervy night. I think it might be a game with some goals in it, and I just really hope we can come out the right side of it. We'll pick this up tomorrow when we'll be chatting about the game. We'll have Brendan Rodgers today, probably, Tony.
Brendan Rodgers speaking at 1:30 today. The players speaking at 1:45, I believe. Yeah, so we'll have that Q&A's up on the website, good stuff like that. Yeah, so
very good. Check that out, and we can get stuck in tomorrow on the day of the game. Guys, thanks again for your time. Thanks everyone for tuning in, commenting, all of that stuff. And as I say, we'll do this again tomorrow, and we'll build up further to a huge game for Celtic against Hibs.